Hey folks, how's it going? Today I am really fortunate to again be reviewing a game that was sent to me. If you have a game that you would like to see on this show, please feel free to get in contact with me. I've got the appropriate places to reach out to me on my description of this video. If nothing else, I love hearing about all of your hard work and creations. I want to say a big thank you to the creators of this game for sending it to me, even though I'm in Australia and it took a while to get here. Flying, super strength, and incredible powers are all in store for us today as we talk about Metroville, the tabletop role-playing game. The handbook for the rules of this game don't really provide a background or a setting for a game to take place in. We do all tend to know what a superhero universe is and what it might look like. This game has decided instead to leave the background to the players and the game master, called the narrator, to decide for themselves. Some of the character options and mechanics that you encounter in this book do indicate a little of the world that you might encounter. There might be aliens, scientific experiments, or magic. I personally think publishing this game without a pre-written setting is a fairly smart move. I generally find people want to create their own superhero universes rather than play in a pre-established one, and the genre of the superhero is so varied with a lot of different genres that this makes this game really flexible to adapt to any of those ideas you might have. Metroville uses d6 to form dice pools that the players and the narrator can roll to determine what happens. A 4 or above on the d6 is considered a success. Some challenges might be more difficult than others and therefore require more successes to achieve. The more successes though, generally the better the results are. Players build their pool using information they have about their character. If a character has a higher stat in an ability or a particular skill or talent in some area, that can add more dice to their pool to roll. The modifiers for these more dice come from the various skills and talents you'll have throughout the game. Higher numbers mean more dice to roll. The process for creating a character asks you to fill out some background and story details first. This is because the backstory of your character will probably influence roughly what type of character archetype you will use to build the mechanical parts of your character. The hero's origin might have them being an alien crash landing to this planet and deciding to stay, or them being a medical experiment gone wrong. Or perhaps they are really adept at technology and can make incredible gadgets. After creating your character's story, and most importantly their hero origin story, you get to pick their powers. These superpowers are divided into physical and mental powers roughly, with some subcategories for different types of damage within them. Some of the archetypes for the different heroes will allow your character to have a major power and perhaps a minor power or two. In other instances, you can pick more interesting features for your character to have. For most roles, you look to your character's major attributes. These are body, agility, mind, willpower, and charisma. These stats are pretty self-explanatory. You also get a pool of maximum stamina points. This tends to indicate how much of a beating your character can take, be that metaphorical or literal. You also get some additional attributes like an armor score and an awareness score. Players then get to choose some talents for their characters. These aren't superpowered, but they might be useful. Driving vehicles, for example, or perhaps a type of weapon. Then the game asks you to come up with some unique talents for your character. Perhaps this is painting, or decorative flower arranging, or macrame. These unique talents should not be available on the general talents list that you are provided. The number of traits or the type of traits you pick is going to depend on the type of character that you're building. Depending on the character archetype you choose, you might start out with negative or positive character traits, which you then need to spend on available options to get your score to 0 at the start of the game. In a scene, known as a panel, players will have about 2 action points in most situations to do things. In a round, players get 2 action points. They might spend a point to do something like stop an enemy, try stop a collapsing building, or help people escape. Movements like talking or moving around the space tend to cost no action points. Generally speaking, players can improve their characters by gaining hero points, and these are gained when the players use their character build in a new and interesting way, such as creatively using their superpowers. These points are awarded by the narrator, and if it feels like the players are trying to farm points, you can just rule that an action or a particular set of sequences wasn't worthy of a hero point. I'm sure though that most people are enjoying the roleplay experience and want this to happen organically. These hero points can be used to improve your scores and potentially gain more modifiers. The mechanics for Metroville are relatively light and easy to grasp. There's about a mid-level of crunch, which I have to say is pretty light for most superhero games. Most of them require a tome or two to get started. I think that little bit of crunch suits the superhero genre really well, as you have lots of different characters with different types of powers. You're going to need to do a little bit to differentiate them. Metroville is a pretty lightweight game, especially for a superhero game. Something about that genre in the tabletop role-playing world seems to lean towards very thick books and a lot of stuff to read. I will say, once you're through the character creation process, this game is pretty easy and light to play. I found in this book that the narrator for the game doesn't get as much assistance as the players do. However, there is some really solid advice. Make the world work and the internal logic of it makes sense. Set interesting challenges and have fun. There's also a couple of tables to suggest some difficulty levels and suggestions on when to roll a pool of dice against your players' characters. I also have to mention that the art of this game is really cute. There's some characters throughout this manual which pop up again and again in different poses, and you get a real feel for who some of these characters are. If you want a fun and creative superhero game, I definitely think this is one to check out. There isn't a ton of super crunchy mechanics, so if you're looking for a superhero option and you feel a bit overwhelmed by a lot of the other ones, I think this would be a great fit. It's also a pretty flexible game. I think you can play a lot of different types of superhero games with this manual as well. Metroville is only a little over $30 USD on DriveThruRPG for a printed copy. I think that's a great price for a really fun and light little game. I think if you're looking for a superhero game, it's definitely worth checking out. So what do you think of superheroes? Do you like them, or are you a bit fatigued by them? Or we can just talk about what you thought about today's game. Feel free to leave all your thoughts down in a comment below. I encourage you while you're there to like, subscribe, and maybe share with a friend. It just encourages me to keep going. I hope you're all well, and I look forward to seeing you next time at the gaming table. Bye!